As a park ranger up here in Washington, I used to patrol this one trail that was quite popular with some nearby college students. The campus was just a 30 to 40 minute walk away from this particular trail, which was relatively short and led into the northeastern edge of the park. On weekends, the trail would often be dotted with groups of students enjoying some wholesome outdoor exercise. Occasionally, you'd get a group engaging in not-so-wholesome activities like drinking or making a general nuisance of themselves. But for the most part, the hikers tended to be polite and well-behaved. Saturday mornings were without a doubt the quietest time of the week. It was during these early hours that the trail would almost always be completely deserted, thanks to the college kids' propensity for late-night partying on Fridays. However, on one particular morning, something caught my attention. As I made my usual rounds, I spotted someone ahead on the trail who looked like a college kid. It raised an eyebrow because first-time hikers tend to look underprepared in both their equipment and clothing. This girl had no pack, and her attire seemed more suited for a Friday night party than a Saturday morning hike. She was walking at an unusually slow pace, the kind that suggested she might have regretted her decision to venture out. It crossed my mind that she might still be feeling the effects of the previous night's drinking escapades. As I closed the distance, I couldn't help but notice that her clothes were dirty, as though she had fallen or taken a tumble. She was sweating profusely, her hair wet and stringy, with a dark patch on her back and shoulders where the fabric clung to her skin. Concerned, I quickened my pace to catch up with her. When I was only about 10 to 15 feet behind her, she finally turned around, and that's when I nearly jumped back in horror. The girl had a gruesome head wound above her eye, and the eye itself was caked with blood. It seemed like someone had viciously attacked her, and the fact that she was still walking was nothing short of a miracle. As soon as she laid her one good eye on me, she collapsed onto her butt, reaching out and croaking, "Water, water," over and over again. I rushed to provide her with water and radioed headquarters for medical attention. However, a distinct smell hit my nostrils, and it suddenly dawned on me, she wasn't soaked with sweat, someone had poured gasoline on her. I kept asking her what had happened, but she couldn't seem to articulate it. The only thing she managed to say before passing out was, "My friends." It sent a shiver down my spine, thinking that there might be more kids in danger somewhere on the trail. I feared she might not make it, right there on the trail with me. Fortunately, a coworker with an ATV stretcher trailer arrived, and we managed to get her the medical attention she desperately needed. The EMTs rushed her to the hospital, and as far as I knew, she was still alive when they took her away. The rest of the ranger team and I spent the morning combing through the woods, searching for any signs of the poor girl's friends. All we found was a doused campfire with empty beer and liquor containers scattered around. The place reeked of gasoline, indicating something far more sinister than a simple accident. It took about a week for the full story to unfold. The horrifying truth was that her own friends had lured her into the woods, beaten her mercilessly, and attempted to set her on fire. The only thing that saved her from being lit ablaze was a malfunctioning lighter. They resorted to using their campfire to light a stick, but by then, the victim had managed to escape into the woods. Learning the details made her haunting words to me, "My friends," all the more chilling. She wasn't expressing concern for them, she was questioning why people she believed were her friends would commit such an atrocious act against her. In the subsequent investigation, it was revealed that the attack stemmed from a stupid love triangle. The ringleader harbored a crush on a guy who reciprocated the victim's feelings, and jealousy fueled the violence. The involvement of alcohol only escalated the brutality. A group of college kids had legitimately conspired to burn one of their peers alive over a teenage crush. The guilty parties were arrested, kicked out of college, and most were handed lengthy prison sentences after a well-publicized trial. My ranger team and I were glued to the radio during news breaks for weeks, desperate for any updates. The horrifying extent of what had occurred that night made it one of the most frightening and disturbing moments of my career. There are undoubtedly scary places in the woods, but there's a certain innocence to encounters with grizzlies and mountain lions. They kill for survival. People, on the other hand, kill just to watch each other die, and that's a terrifying reality I still struggle to comprehend. For the past 4 years, I've dedicated my life to serving as a full-time park ranger for the British National Trust, an institution with a legacy spanning almost 130 years. As the largest heritage conservation society in the United Kingdom, our mission is to safeguard places of historic significance or natural beauty across the country. From old stately homes to expansive national parks, my role has taken me to various corners of the UK. Growing up in County Down, Northern Ireland, it was only fitting that my career as a park ranger led me to the Morgue Mountains. This rugged terrain encompasses several forests and parks under the National Trust's jurisdiction, including Silent Valley, Tullamore, and Ross Trevor. Despite the diversity of these locations, they all fall within the realm of my dedicated team. Having undergone my training around the Morgue Mountains and being intimately familiar with the region from my upbringing in Luggan, my experience positioned me as a go-to resource for team members seeking advice on local terrain and navigation. Little did I know that my expertise would be put to the test in a most peculiar and unsettling incident. One early morning, a colleague reached out for assistance. A camper, described as visibly upset, had stumbled upon a ghastly scene outside his tent: 2 dead sheep. Initially, I didn't think much of it, considering the myriad reasons sheep might meet an unfortunate end. However, my colleague's sense of urgency was fueled by the camper's refusal to return to his campsite, driven by an unexplained terror. Intrigued and armed with a vague description, I set out to locate the camper's site. Wild camping in the expansive Morgue Mountains without specific coordinates made it a challenging task. During my search, I stayed in contact with my colleague, who was still with the distressed camper at our Morne Country Park office. The camper's account unfolded: his frantic escape from the campsite at dawn, the eerie discovery of the dead sheep, and his reluctance to return. Eventually narrowing down the search area, I stumbled upon a red tent nestled among trees near the distinctive C-shaped Spelga Reservoir. As I approached, the full extent of the camper's horror came into view. Strewn across the campsite were not just dead sheep but a gruesome tableau of wool, flesh, and bone. It was a scene that sent shivers down my spine, a sight unparalleled in my ranger career. Upon securing the area for evidence preservation, I headed to Morne Country House to interview the shaken camper. My questions, though relevant, yielded little information. He believed the sheep remains were dumped as a warning, but the motive remained elusive. The perplexing nature of the situation only intensified when I discovered that the 4 sheep at the campsite matched the count of missing sheep reported by a local farmer over the past 2 weeks. The farmer, desperate for answers, allowed me to inspect his supposedly secure fences, which had become a wooden fortress surrounded by chicken wire. Yet, despite these efforts, the sheep continued to disappear, only to reappear in a horrifying tableau near the camper's tent. The farmer suspected theft, and the bizarre cycle of missing and mutilated sheep bewildered everyone involved. Attempts to investigate further were hindered by the deteriorated state of the sheep remains, rendering a conclusive analysis impossible. The local police dismissed the incident as foxes or stray dogs, with even the National Trust and the RSPB attributing the occurrence to large escaped dogs and predators. However, those of us who witnessed the gruesome scene knew better. There was something more to this unsettling puzzle, and the lack of a formal investigation left us haunted by unanswered questions. Even years later, the memory of the dead sheep incident in the Morne Mountains lingers, a chilling enigma that continues to occupy my thoughts, driven not by what I know but by the unsettling mysteries that remain hidden. As a park ranger in Slovakia, my duty involves safeguarding the natural beauty of the country, ensuring the well-being of its visitors, and maintaining the balance between nature and human presence. However, there's a dark mystery that haunts the tranquil region of Trebac, nestled in the Carpathian Mountains, which I feel compelled to share. Slovakia, with its Carpathian Mountains, boasts diverse landscapes. Trebac, a triangular formation on the west side of the country, is surrounded by smaller mountains, offering a seemingly calm and normal environment. Yet, beneath this facade of serenity, a series of mysterious disappearances have cast a shadow over the region, akin to an eerie urban legend. These vanishings, almost treated as a macabre meme, have become a peculiar aspect of Slovakian lore. People, for the most part, dismiss them as tragic accidents, victims of harsh weather, animal attacks, or simply getting lost. However, there are instances that defy easy explanations, prompting me to question the nature of reality in this seemingly peaceful locale. One such case dates back to 1929 when Mr. Sam Zali vanished on a snowy November day. His solitary life led some to speculate suicide, but the absence of his body remains a lingering mystery. Fast forward to 1939, and the enigma deepens with the disappearance of Walter Fisher. His decision to forego a family visit for a hike to the Black Castle, an ancient fortress, raises perplexing questions. Walter resurfaced months later, traumatized and wounded, with no memory of the intervening time, leaving his bizarre ordeal unexplained. In 1966, another unsettling incident unfolded as Jan and Elena, a married couple, set off for a hike in the Trebac Mountains. Without any apparent warning signs, they walked into the forest and vanished, prompting an extensive search that yielded no results. The circumstances surrounding their disappearance intensified the intrigue, drawing more attention from the media and law enforcement. The Trebac region, though small, has witnessed numerous missing persons cases, typically resolved with injuries or simple lost wanderers. However, the inexplicable vanishings and the reappearance of Walter Fisher with no recollection of his ordeal suggest something far more sinister. As a rational observer, I struggle to find logical explanations for these occurrences, and the lack of answers fuels wild speculations, from espionage during World War II to fantastical tales of time portals and extraterrestrial involvement. My frustration grows as these stories remain largely unknown outside Slovakia, dismissed as mere campfire tales. I hope that by sharing this account with English-language media, the spotlight on Trebac's mysteries will attract the attention needed to unravel these perplexing disappearances. Perhaps shedding light on the unknown will finally lift the veil on the eerie secrets concealed within the heart of the Carpathian Mountains. Many years ago, I found myself working in the vast and untamed wilderness of Alaska as a member of the Park Services. One day, a call came in about some illegal dumping on one of the local trails, prompting me and a fellow employee to venture deep into the heart of the wilderness to investigate. The trails were remote, with only a handful of joggers crossing our path as we delved further into the forest. As we rounded a bend in the trail, my partner suddenly stopped and squinted into the woods. "What in the world?" he muttered, catching my attention. About 20 yards away, there was a man, a white guy with longish hair, crouched behind a bush, just staring at us. The man noticed that we had spotted him, and with an odd nonchalance, he stood up and stretched his arms in the air, as if he was simply enjoying a leisurely day in the wilderness. Curiosity piqued, the man approached us, and to my surprise, my partner seemed to recognize him. It turned out that he was a local builder or owned a construction company. He and my partner exchanged pleasantries, and he mentioned casually that he had stepped off the path for a moment to relieve himself. It was a strange explanation, considering what we had witnessed, but my friend vouched for him, and since he wasn't engaged in any obviously suspicious activity, we decided to continue our inspection. We walked together for a fair distance, chatting about mundane topics and enjoying the natural beauty surrounding us. Little did we know, this seemingly innocuous encounter would later take a chilling turn. A few years passed, and I heard shocking news about the man we had encountered in the woods. His name was Israel Keyes, and the story unfolded in a manner far more bizarre than anything I could have imagined. Apparently, he had been arrested for an altercation at a local coffee shop, initially reported as a robbery gone wrong resulting in the murder of a young girl. However, the truth was even more horrifying. Israel Keyes was a serial killer who had been traveling across the country, randomly abducting, torturing, and murdering people. As the details emerged, it was revealed that he would bury murder kits at various locations, containing weapons, cash, and other essentials. He would return to these sites, sometimes years later, to carry out his gruesome deeds. Recalling our encounter with him in the woods, I couldn't help but wonder about his intentions that day. I revisited the spot where we had come across him, hoping to find some clue or indication of his sinister activities. Despite my thorough search, I found nothing. Some speculated that he might have been lying in wait to surprise a victim on the trail, but that didn't align with his known modus operandi. The eerie realization that we had crossed paths with a remorseless killer left me unsettled. As the story unfolded, it became clear that our chance encounter with Israel Keyes was a chilling brush with darkness. Sadly, before the truth could fully emerge in a court of law, Keyes took his own life, leaving many unanswered questions and a lingering sense of unease. In the rugged terrain of New Mexico, where the sun-baked earth often quivered with the threat of wildfires, I toiled as a park ranger. A few years back, our team found itself embroiled in a fierce battle against a particularly malicious outbreak of flames that danced voraciously through the dry brush. Our days blurred into nights, and exhaustion became an unwelcome companion as we fought tirelessly to extinguish the inferno that threatened the wilderness we swore to protect. During this harrowing period, we collaborated with a group of wildland firefighters, a diverse assembly of men and women united by a common goal. Our efforts were relentless, with sleep becoming a luxury and the acrid smoke a constant reminder of the relentless challenge we faced. Assignments stretched on for what felt like an eternity, lasting anywhere from 14 to 28 days, depending on the voracity of the fires and our need for resources. On one indistinct evening, the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving us shrouded in darkness. The atmosphere was tinged with weariness, but our determination held strong. As we prepared to take a well-deserved break, huddled together under the vast expanse of the starlit sky, the usual radio chatter abruptly shifted into an eerie silence punctuated only by the crackle of static. It wasn't unusual for our communication devices to succumb to the whims of the wild, but this time felt different. Fatigue settled into my bones, the weight of the day's trials pressing down on me. I found solace against the rough bark of a tree, surrounded by comrades equally drained by the ceaseless demands of the wildfire. In that moment of respite, a peculiar sensation enveloped me, a stark awakening, akin to the jolt one experiences when abruptly pulled from the depths of a falling dream. As I sat there, grappling with the weariness that threatened to overcome me, I witnessed spectral figures, ethereal and elusive. They moved with an otherworldly grace, reminiscent of the elusive ghost of Obi-Wan. Behind the veil of smoke and shadows, they weaved through the trees, transient apparitions that vanished as swiftly as they appeared. I scanned the faces of my fellow rangers, seeking confirmation or acknowledgement, but none shared my vision. Doubt gnawed at the edges of my consciousness. I was not one to readily embrace tales of the supernatural. Rationality tethered me to the tangible world. Yet, in that moment, the boundary between reality and hallucination blurred. Was it the exhaustion playing tricks on my senses, conjuring phantoms in the flickering firelight? I grappled with the uncertainty, torn between the pragmatic ranger within me and the lingering impression that something inexplicable had transpired that night. In the days that followed, the wildfires were subdued, and life returned to a semblance of normalcy. Yet, the memory of those elusive figures lingered, a spectral enigma imprinted on the canvas of my wilderness tales. The radio static may have faded, but the mysteries of that night continued to whisper in the rustling leaves and dance in the shadows, challenging the boundaries of my understanding.